So get this statistic. If I told you that in one country, just last year, teens and young adults made up almost 40% of all drug-related arrests, what comes to mind?
Yeah, what do you picture?
Right, like organized crime, maybe back alleys, because the reality that our source material paints is actually much, much more disturbing.
It really is.
This crisis is happening in places like dorm rooms, school grounds even, and it's driven by substances people are buying with just, click on their phone.
That 40% number, it's not just some local police stat. Honestly, it's like a global alarm bell.
Yeah.
It signals this incredibly fast shift in how young people are getting access to and even perceiving really serious drugs.
Okay.
So today we're doing a deep dive into what's driving this unprecedented youth drug abuse. We're using the data from Korea as, well, a pretty stark case study.
And focusing on a really innovative response, right? Something called Not a Lab, and it's entirely student-led.
Exactly. Student-led. Our mission today is to really understand how this group of international high school students saw this happening, this terrifying normalization of drug use among their own friends, their peers.
We're going to dissect the hard data that's fueling it all.
Yeah.
Explore that critical student viewpoint, what turned their fear into actual action.
And break down the tools they're using. They've got this whole cross-border strategy, too, aiming to fundamentally change drug prevention education. It's quite sophisticated.
Yeah, we've gathered reports, excerpts detailing the project launch, the strategy.
Right, and the urgency behind it and how it connects this local student action to much bigger international education goals. It's a fascinating example, truly ground-up innovation stepping in where maybe traditional top-down methods haven't quite worked.
Okay, let's unpack this data then. What really created the urgency for these students? I mean, the sheer scale of the problem.
Yeah.
We mentioned the 40% figure, teens and young adults, almost half of all drug arrests. But put a number on that.
It's huge.
Over 20,000 arrests. Just in 2023. That's according to the Korea Customs Service and the National Police Agency. It's a massive demographic shift, in who's actually dealing with this.
And it's not just the sheer volume, though that's obviously concerning. It's the nature of the substances involved. When you dig into the specifics, this surge is heavily fueled by synthetics.
Like fentanyl.
Exactly. Highly dangerous synthetic opioids like fentanyl, plus this wave of what they call NPS-new psychoactive substances.
Right.
These are often chemically complex, sometimes completely unknown, and just alarmingly potent drugs.
And what seems really different now compared to maybe, decades ago, is how easy it is to get them. The physical barrier is just gone.
Completely gone. Back then, access was limited, right? By where you lived, who you knew.
Sure.
But now, the reports really stress the main method of circulation. Illegal sales through overseas online platforms. The dark web, too. It's instant. It gets around pretty much every traditional border check, age verification, everything. And it makes young people this rapidly growing and, frankly, incredibly vulnerable group of consumers.
So we're talking serious narcotics being delivered straight to high school kids through parcel services.
That's exactly what we're talking about. You've basically got this global, very sophisticated drug trafficking network, but it's operating at the local level with unbelievable efficiency.
And the usual institutions, law enforcement, schools, even parents, they just aren't really set up to police like encrypted chat rooms or these overseas websites, are they?
No, and that's the core of the problem. This digital access completely changes the addiction landscape, that 40% statistic. In a way, it reflects a failure of our controls to keep pace with digital crime.
It's easy to throw around numbers like 20,000 arrests or talk abstractly about fentanyl. But what did this crisis actually look like inside the international school where these students were?
That's where it gets personal, right? Absolutely. That student perspective is just critical here. It's the whole reason Not a Lab exists. We're talking about 6 students who weren't just, reading scary headlines.
They were seeing it firsthand.
Yes, seeing classmates actually experimenting with pills they bought online. But the really chilling part wasn't just the experimentation, it was how casual everyone was about it.
The sources mentioned that, how normalized the whole conversation became. Like students joking about study drugs, specifically misusing things like ADHD medication, maybe not even realizing how easily that kind of casual use slips into real dependency. It's almost like a life hack or a party thing.
And that's the concept we really need to focus on, normalization. When you normalize risk, you strip away the perception of danger.
Right.
For this generation, getting substances online feels less risky than, say, buying drugs on a street corner. The digital aspect creates this kind of psychological distance. It feels less criminal somehow, less dangerous.
And when they mention misusing ADHD meds, that hits on another huge issue: the intense academic pressure. That pressure can make dangerous coping mechanisms feel almost justified, even smart, until it's obviously way too late.
Precisely. These students realized they were living inside a public health crisis that nobody was really talking about in the right way, at least not in a way that reached them.
That lack of understanding.
It's why their voices are so powerful. We actually have the quote that sort of sparked the whole project. One student said, "What shocked me most was realizing that people my age don't even see some of these substances as dangerous. It feels normal, and that's terrifying."
Wow. That one line, "it feels normal." That really is the entire motivation for Not a Lab, isn't it?
Yeah.
They saw that official warnings from adults just weren't cutting through that feeling of normalcy.
Exactly. And that normalization is what they decided they had to fight, actively combat. The project founder basically said, look, this isn't someone else's problem anymore. It's a reality our generation must face. It's a call to action by them, for them.
Okay, so if the problem is digital, it crosses borders, and it feels normal to the target group, how do you even begin to fight back? Let's talk about the solution. The Not a Lab Youth Drug Prevention Project.
Right.
It's peer-driven, launching this October, and importantly, it's not just in Seoul, it's cross-border. Korea and Mongolia launching at the same time.
And choosing Mongolia wasn't random. The sources point out it stems from growing student exchanges between the countries, and maybe more critically, shared worries about youth health, about the flow of information and substances across those borders. It elevates it, from just a local school club to a proper regional collaborative health effort.
And they seem to be running it like a professional nonprofit, but built by teens. They have this goal, raising awareness by 50%.
That sounds incredibly ambitious.
It is ambitious. Do the sources get into how they plan to measure that?
Yeah.
Or ensure it leads to actual change, not just kids knowing more facts?
Yeah, that's a key part of their strategy. Customization and real measurement. They plan to involve over 100 students just in the delivery. And that 50% awareness goal, they're measuring it scientifically. Using detailed pre- and post-project surveys, interactive assessments, they're actually benchmarking their effectiveness. It's not just hoping they make a difference, they're trying to prove it.
Okay, so let's look at the deliverables. What are they actually making? They're tackling the information gap, right?
Head on. First, there's a tangible tool, a guidebook, bilingual Korean and English. And it's specifically designed to be accessible, relevant to teens, avoiding that, preachy institutional jargon.
Makes sense.
But the really groundbreaking piece, I think, is the tech tool they built themselves, a website and an app designed to fight the online trade directly.
How does it do that?
Think about this. It's a tool that lets young people instantly check drug ingredients, verify if something's legal or not, and it's integrated with interactive educational content.
Okay, that's interesting. That feels like where the student innovation really highlights the gap left by institutions.
Exactly.
While police and customs struggle to control the supply side on encrypted apps, these high schoolers are building a solution for the demand side, giving kids instant info right when they might need it.
It's customized prevention delivered right at the point of decision.
Yeah. The traditional approach is just don't do drugs, full stop.
Right. But the student system says, okay, here's exactly what that pill is, here's what it might do, and here's how you check if it's even legal. All instantly accessible on your phone. It empowers the user with immediate relevant information tailored to the actual stuff circulating, like fentanyl and these MTS drugs.
And they clearly get that who delivers the message matters. The source mentions participants creating their own content, like posters, videos.
Yeah, creative stuff, engaging posters, emotional storytelling videos, hosting really candid Q&A sessions. It's not dry, boring material. It's designed to resonate culturally with their peers.
It says a lot about effectiveness, doesn't it? We see prevention efforts fail because kids just don't trust the messenger or feel they're out of touch.
Totally. And one student leader was quoted saying something crucial. We want to be the ones who tell our peers the truth because sometimes they'll listen to us before they listen to adults. That trust gap. That's precisely why peer-led stuff works so well.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
But does the source material mention any risks? Relying solely on student leadership for such a complex, serious health crisis.
That's a really important point to consider. While the sources definitely champion the effectiveness of their peer-to-peer reach, They also kind of imply the need for partnership.
Ah,
The
okay.
fact they're working with institutions like the IYCF, the International Youth Community Exchange Foundation, who helped with the cross-border part, shows something.
Right. It's not purely DIY.
Exactly. While the delivery needs to be peer-driven to build that trust, the support structure benefits from adult guidance, institutional legitimacy that helps with longevity, scaling up. So it's not really an amateur project. It's more like a professionally guided but peer-led campaign.
So if we zoom out, connect this to the bigger picture, this whole model really proves why hyper-relevant, peer-centered prevention is so effective. You mentioned an IYC official.
Yes, they emphasize that these kinds of initiatives build much stronger connections among teenagers. Why? Because they address the actual reality of their lives, and that's what leads to real, sustainable changes in behavior.
And it's not just effective locally, it connects globally too. You mentioned the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs.
Right. This localized effort carries global weight because it links directly to established international policy. Not a Lab is described as a powerful example of putting those SDGs into meaningful practice.
Okay, we hear about the SDGs a lot, but maybe remind us, how exactly does a student project in Korea and Mongolia connect to these huge global frameworks?
Sure, so the SDGs are basically the world's shared blueprint for a better future, agreed on by the UN. Not a Lab directly helps achieve two really critical goals.
Which ones?
First is SDG 3, good health and well-being for all. Obviously, tackling drug abuse fits right in there. And second is SDG 4, quality education, because they're providing custom, relevant, effective prevention tools that's a form of quality education.
Ah, I see.
So the project really demonstrates how quality education is a key pathway to getting better health outcomes.
So what these students are really showing us is that as youth drug abuse becomes a bigger global problem, prevention doesn't have to be this slow top-down thing.
Exactly.
They're proving that education and prevention can start with their own voices, delivered on platforms they actually use. And crucially, those voices can cross borders, tackling a global issue with a powerful, localized solution.
Yeah, this whole initiative is like proof of concept. The best defense against the digital drug trade seems to be a customized, digitally savvy counter message, delivered by people you actually trust. They're fighting that normalization of risk with the hyper-relevance of reality.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, we looked at a really serious crisis. This alarming rise in youth drug abuse, 40% of arrests involving teens and young adults, fueled by online platforms pushing dangerous stuff like fentanyl, NPS.
A grim picture.
But we also saw this problem being met head-on by a really sophisticated, tech-driven, and maybe most importantly, emotionally relevant solution, spearheaded entirely by peers, the Not a Lab project.
And the core lesson here seems pretty clear. Prevention strategies really need to move on from outdated methods. If the people you're trying to reach trust the digital drug dealers more than official sources, well, your solution has to be built by people they do trust, using tools they already rely on.
Right. Which leaves us with the final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. Considering how successful these students were in just identifying the institutional gap and then building custom digital tools, guidebooks, ingredient checkers, actual apps, what does it mean for the future of drug prevention when your people are literally building better, more relevant educational resources than some official government-funded institutions?
It's a powerful question. And maybe think broader, too. What other global health challenges, things like the youth mental health crisis or maybe climate anxiety, could benefit right now from replicating this specific model, this peer-driven cross-border approach? Something to think about.